Welcome to Patriarchy.com, where we help you become a more virtuous leader for your family. I'm Knowland, and on this channel, Daily Patriarchy, I answer all your questions in the comments every day in video form. I also document our mission to strengthen society by rebuilding the patriarchy one family at a time. Thanks to your support, this new channel is up to 569 subscribers, 15 videos in. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, and share this content with anybody you think might appreciate it. You can also leave comments on any of the videos, and I'll answer your question the next day. If you are serious about growing as a leader for your family, you can also check out our coaching group, Marriage Mastery, currently 102 members. This is great value, only $297 a month for 24/7 support. That's around what you'd pay for just 1 hour of marriage counseling or therapy. So check it out if this is something that's high priority for you. I also have my main channel here, Will Knowland at Be Her Leader, 18.1K subs, where you can get long form content to help you in your marriage too. On to today's questions then. Let's go down to the bottom and work our way back up. Michael Cyan asks about whether the money that the husband earns is really the family's money or is it his? He writes, "It's not the family's money. It's the man's money for the family. Minor differences, but important. We don't want the woman to work and consider the money the family's money. If the man's responsibility to make the income for the family. He was the one who had the curse to provide for the family, not the woman. Her pain is in childbearing and submitting to her husband's rule." Well, first of all, even before the fall, Eve was subject to Adam. So patriarchy existed in paradise. It's not a punishment. So that's a big thing you got to understand. Patriarchy was in paradise. It is not a punishment after the fall. You also write that it's the man's money for the family and that we don't want the woman to work and consider the money the family's money. However, in the unusual circumstances that the wife might have to work, for example, the husband is incapacitated and unable to, that is exactly what we would want. She would be working and considering the money she earns the family's money. You are still entrenched in this liberal idea that the man as an individual is earning money for himself. No, it's about the family as a whole functioning for its overall benefit. That's why I'm saying it's the family's money. And there's an interesting section in an article on how St. Thomas Aquinas treats the subjection of the wife to the husband when it comes to almsgiving that I'd like to go through to illustrate this. I'll read out the relevant section and you can see how it applies. In an interesting article on the ability of subjects to give alms, St. Thomas gives valuable insight into his view of the wife's position in the home and the balance between her subjection and her independence. The principles from which he argues are twofold. No one can give that which belongs to another, and no one can act without the permission of his superior in those matters in which he is subject. Monks then cannot give alms except as directed by their superiors, nor children or slaves without the consent of their parents or masters. Wives can give alms from the household monies with the express or presumed consent of their husbands. This consent is necessary because he is the head in domestic matters. In addition, wives may give, without their husband's consent, alms from their own property which they earn or acquire in other lawful means. Now, here's the interesting bit. Thomas's answer presumes that almsgiving is a household task, and that as such it pertains to the wife, who must then have at her disposal funds for the running of the household. Of course, she cannot give alms from this money against the wishes of her husband, but the reason given by Thomas is not that the money is his, right? But that he is the head of the domestic society. So it's not the husband's money that he gives to the family. The fact that she can give alms with only his presumed consent means that this money is not his exclusive property, but the common property of both of them. No one can give that which belongs to another, and the wife can give alms from the household funds as long as her husband does not object. Monks, slaves, and children do not have property themselves, and hence they can only give the property of another. with his permission. But the wife requires only presumed permission. And that only because the man is the head of the family, not because what she is giving is his property. It seems that the household money, which the wife may dispose of with only the husband's presumed consent, belongs not to him, but to the domestic society, to both of them. So that's why I'm saying that it's the family's money. Now, just continue with this because it's something that a lot of people don't understand very well. The situation in which the woman may give alms without her husband's consent is revealing of an even more surprising element of Thomas's thought about the role and position of wives. She may give alms out of her own property, which means that married women can own property and dispose of it themselves. Super interesting. This property does not include her dowry, which, although remaining the woman's possession, is intended for the support of the burdens of marriage. The use of it belongs to the husband as head of the family society. Thomas says that she may give alms out of property which she has gained by her labours or by other lawful means. The wife, then, is not only able to own property, but also to work in her free time and to dispose of the money earned herself. As subject to the man in her actions connected with the household society, the wife cannot make a vow, since she may be promising something which would interfere with her household tasks in which she is subject to her husband. As her director in domestic matters, he has a right to her time. But when she is not occupied with these things, she is free to employ herself in gainful occupation, and the money earned is hers to dispose of. She must not give to the poor so much, however, that she impoverishes her husband. Thomas adds, indicating that the wife's earnings, like those of the husband, are normally contributed to household funds. So, from all this, the conclusion is, it is evident that the subjection of the wife to the husband is not absolute for Thomas. He has direction over her within the household and for the good of the domestic society. But in other areas and in her free time, she is not subject to him. She may employ herself and earn money. She may own property and dispose of it. Right. That clarifies things. So you can see there that the husband's money is not his own money that he is giving to the family. It is the family's money. And the subjection of the wife to the husband is not absolute. Now, that will help us with your next question, which is, if we scroll up, a wife is supposed to submit to all things as unto the Lord. Man was given rule over his wife in Genesis 3:16. This is the same word as the sun ruling over the day and the moon over the night. This was a punishment of the woman for not obeying her husband. Well, we've already seen why that isn't the case, because patriarchy was there in paradise already. A good substitute for this is dominance. We might expect the same obedience as a child or slave in the Old Testament. So, just to clarify, what Michael's saying here is that he believes wives are subject to husbands in the way that slaves are subject to their masters. Now, Aquinas distinguishes between the two different kinds of authority, for example, by saying that a master has authority over his slaves for his own benefit, whereas a husband has authority over his wife for her benefit and for the benefit of the family. So that's the real difference between tyranny and patriarchy. However, Michael believes that the wife is like a slave to the husband. In the New Testament, we have the Greek word submit instead of rule. We get disappointed when those under our authority do not obey us, especially if it is for the health of the house and family. Women are not told to submit to their husbands, as stated in this video. They say women are to submit, but then they give all these reasons she doesn't need to submit to her husband. And in the end, they tell women they are not to be doormats, and they are the neck of the relationship. All this is trying to fight the real meaning of submit. I would say a woman is not to sin against God or man, but if it is not sin, you should obey your husband, even if it does go against your dignity as a woman. Know where the word came from and what it means in its context. Don't be fooled by men who preach bilateral marriage and say it's okay for women to divorce men for abuse or adultery. That is simply not in the Bible. This is not a patriarchal message, but an egalitarian or weak complementarian message at best. I hope that helps. Well, it definitely helps us to dig into some of these misconceptions about what patriarchy is and isn't. So your basic point there is that wives are slaves to their husband. A husband should expect to rule over his wife in the same way that slaves were ruled over in the Old Testament. Now, you're referring here to the video where I quoted Casti Connubii here and pointed out that Pope Pius XI explicitly rejected this idea that wives are just slaves to their husbands, because he said that a wife does not get subjected to her husband in a way that denies or takes away the liberty which fully belongs to the woman, both in view of her dignity as a human person and in view of her most noble office as wife and mother and companion. A slave does lose that liberty. A wife doesn't. Also, you were saying that the wife should obey the husband. Also, you're saying that the wife should obey the husband even when it goes against her dignity. Now, that's not the case, according to the Catholic Church. She does not need to obey every request if it is not in harmony with right reason or with the dignity due to a wife. And when you compare the wife to being a child too, that is also explicitly rejected by Pope Pius XI. Now, he quotes towards the end of his encyclical Casti Connubii, Pope Leo XIII saying that the wife is subject and obedient to the man, not as a servant, but as a companion. So I don't know where you get your views about marriage from, but the Catholic Church rejects this idea that the wife is simply a slave to the husband. Yes, the husband is the head of the wife. However, we must make sure that divine charity is the constant guide of their mutual relations. And we do not want the wife's dignity to be undermined. Thanks for the comments. Definitely important topics for people to be aware of. I actually believe from my experience in marriage coaching that this mental model of the wife as a slave is one of the quickest ways to wreck a marriage. Many guys have that, and then they come to us and we correct it, and their marriages begin to thrive. One Flew West says, I'm loving these daily videos. They are so helpful and comforting. Well, thank you for watching. Appreciate the comment. Make sure anybody, if you've got any questions about what we're covering here, just leave a comment and I'll get to it tomorrow. And share this with anybody you think would benefit from hearing it. That's one of the best ways you can help us get the message out there. Even just commenting to say thanks is going to help us out. Pedro, whose question about how to build fortitude I answered yesterday, says, thank you. The bit about not knowing best and courage being about endurance and patience really struck a chord. Your daily content is pure gold. So he's just referring there to the fact that endurance is the toughest and most important part of fortitude. So we should aim at being long-suffering and being able to bear up under evil cheerfully. Very important point to consider given the world around us, and also for many guys, some of the struggles they're facing in marriage. Fortitude is a really important part of being a strong leader. So if you've enjoyed the material we've covered today, you might have to check out our support community at patriarchy.com/start. We're currently at 271 members, only $9 a month. This is a great deal for guys who are looking to get some basic guidance on how to grow as men, as leaders. We look at questions like how to lead without using words, how to navigate arguments, how to uphold boundaries, how to improve her health, fitness, lead financially, etc. Everything that you'd like to improve on as a leader, we can give you content on. And we have courses which are proven that you can work through to start getting results from day one. 271 members gives you a lot of like-minded guys to connect with and grow alongside. This is one of the most powerful things about this community compared to just information on social media. We're more about transformation, giving you connections, because most of you know what to do. You just need to have more action on it. That's what's going to make the difference. So check this out if that appeals to you. Hope to see you on the inside. Our churn for this is ridiculously low. It's about 1%. So only one guy in 100 dislikes it. And even then, it's normally not because he has a problem with any of the content. It's just because it's not a true priority for him. And we're happy that he goes because we want the group to be about guys who have this as a top priority, because that's the energy that we want to have there. Okay, thanks for watching. Leave your comment on the video and I'll get to it tomorrow. Okay, thanks for watching. Leave your comment. I'll get to it tomorrow. Take care.